As you can see by the shape of the course there, it's a little bit like a swan with a long neck and a head. The lake at the bottom being the body of the swan. Let's go over to the lake where it all starts. This is a preview of the Swan course on Indie Velo. As we head towards the start line, just warming up. Slightly sort of dark in the footage at the moment, but it gets brighter as we go on. This of course I suppose maybe relative to when you start recording, but I was doing this early in the morning as sun was rising, so maybe that's the reason. We go under the laps done 0 sign and off we go. Now you can see from the bottom right hand corner of this course that of the screen rather, the course is basically over the top of the big peak on the island, and you can see we've got this fairly sort of flat, straight bit first of all. You can see in the top right-hand corner the gradient currently 1%, and if you look at the bottom right-hand corner where the profile is, you can see the little arrow near the start is where we are at the moment. Back down to 0% at the moment though. So it's not completely flat along this little section, but we get that flat section along and then up perhaps a 3 to 4 kilometre climb, the same down the descent with a little bit of relatively flat at the bottom. As you can see, the undulations here giving us -1% there. Enjoy it while it lasts, because there's a long haul up that mountain very soon. Now I'm riding this not in a race situation, I'm just doing it as a ride on my own on the course, so I will get those little options pop up for changing course. Of course, if you race it during one of our races, you won't get that. Now you can see here, I've slowed down quite a lot, 4 or 5% little ramp there. You can hardly see it on the profile, but it's there. So straight away within the first kilometre, you've got one of those little ramps that can split a peloton in a race. Doesn't last very long. We're back up over it and into slightly negative territory with a -1% decline here, but we'll regard this as fairly flat at the moment. But as I say, within 500-600 or 600-700 metres, you already get one little ramp that of course can split a few people off the back. Now you can see on the horizon right at the top of your screen, you can see the top of the mountain. We don't go all the way to the top, it goes nearly to the top and then does a circle, a little loop around it and comes back down again. But that's what you're about to climb. Now if you've ever done mountain climbs, you'll know that it's really about getting a pace that you can cope with for quite a long time. So if you bust a gut at the beginning, you are likely to pay for it later. So it's finding a nice rhythm. Now the thing about this particular mountain is the steepest bits are really at the bottom. There is a little kick at the end, right at the end, but it's the bottom section that is going to test you the most, and I think this will fracture any race at the bottom. But I think you've got to judge by your own standards whether or not you go for it in that bottom section and perhaps get some clear space between you and everybody else, so that when you get into the I suppose the last 2/3 of the mountain, where it's a little bit more consistent around that sort of 4, 5, 6% gradient, and you can get into one gear and hold a rhythm. You see 5, 6% now, still on the bottom. It gets steeper. Look, there we go, 8%, 10%, really slowing down now, and you can see all the bots in this, 12% now. This is a hard stretch, and it's right at the bottom. So already those who can cope with these sort of gradients on a platform like this will be faring better than those who don't particularly like them. It's still at 11% there, slightly dropping, but it's not going to make a lot of difference. It doesn't last forever, and it is, I think, going to be sort of fracturing, have a fracturing effect on any peloton. So you're now down to 6%, it's quite nice. The worst isn't over yet, there is more to come, but as I say, it's this first quarter of the climb that these steep gradients come. You can see we're down at 2% now, so a bit of a respite. If you haven't lost too much ground, maybe you can just catch up with the people in front, but beware, there's a couple more steep ramps to come before we get onto that consistent 5, 6, 7% sort of gradient for most of the mountain. As I say, there is a kick at the end too, but I think if you've kept up most of the way, that little kick, even if you lose a couple of metres, might not hurt, because just look at the descent you've got in the second half of the race. Back up to 6% now, the climb heading towards the little bit of a sort of flat a bit, as you can see on the profile, but we've got to go up through some harsh gradients to get there. Already up to 7%, you can see slowing down, even the bots 8% now, grinding away. It's not forever, but 9%, it's going up. It's going to hurt, especially under racing conditions. Obviously, I'm just doing a demo here as we hit 10%, double-digit climbing at the moment. As I say, it gets better, but not yet. 11% already, and we still aren't up to that little flat plateau that you can see teasingly just ahead of us on the profile down below. And the other thing is, it's the view when you're actually riding this, as you can see, because it curls around the bend, it looks like there's a horizon there, but of course there's not, because you can't see where the road goes next because it bends round. But we are getting ever closer to that plateau, still at 10%, consistent. This is going to be a big factor in any race on this course, and be prepared for it and work out your strategy. I mean, we have seen in races so far where riders realise this is coming and build themselves a big gap, go off the front along the flat section, knowing that they're going to get caught on the climb, but just aiming to be with the pack at the top of the climb. So the gradient slightly easing off to 9%, out of the double digits, down to 8% now. You can see those little wisps going across the road. They're the wind direction. I don't think the wind's going to hinder you too much at the moment, but remember that the wind is a big factor in Indie Velo. You can be going along a straight into a wind and wondering why you're not going very fast, and equally feel very pleased with yourself on another day when it's behind you. So it does affect your racing. We're down to a comfortable 6% now as we hit that little plateau that I mentioned earlier, 5%. A little bit of respite now, and it's going to hover around these sorts of gradients for the rest of the climb. 7% at the moment, but as I say, it won't remain at 7% all the way up. It's down to 4 now, as you can see. So it fluctuates, but I think if you find the right gear and you find the right tempo, now you can churn your way up. Now we're only about a quarter of the way up the mountain. We're 2.5 kilometres into the race with 8 to go. So we're sort of something like just approaching a quarter of the way through the race. And if you take the flat top of the mountain where we do that loop around the peak, that is about 5 kilometres in, about 5 point something kilometres in. You can see a little bit of respite here. We're down to 0%, 1% because we're on that little plateau, but it soon starts grinding up again. So don't relax too much. As here we hit 6% again, and as I say, this is going to be kind of steadily around this 5, 6, 7% gradient to the top, where there is a little bit of more of a kick, but apart from that, I think it's fairly consistently around this. I say this as it goes to 8%, but I don't think this lasts too long, 9% in fact actually, but like I say, most of this climb is around the 5, 6, 7% range, so don't be too disturbed by this little section of 9% because it doesn't last forever. Nevertheless, the climb will take a little while, and it'll be interesting to see how much damage it does and how strung out the race is on the climb. Remember, you can actually make up ground on the descent afterwards. I wouldn't rest your whole race strategy on it, but if you can pedal down these slopes and make up ground. We're down at 7%, as I said, it eases off, so that short little bit where it goes up to 9%, but not enduring. And we're back down to the 6%, which is kind of about the average you get to most of the way, and you can see it just kicks up a little bit right at the end before doing the flat top and then the big long descent to the bottom. That will be an interesting race, I think, depending on how people are strung out at the top, really. I mean, if there's small gaps, they can be made up, and the sprinters will certainly relish the last little bit around the lake, with this is the flat bit at the end. So here we are, we're 3 kilometres into a 10.5 kilometre race, 7.7 to go, so it's a bit more than 10.5 kilometres, but remember, I didn't start right on the start line, so there's a little bit extra factored in there, but it's I think about 10.6 kilometres if you do an actual race here. So you can see the sky brightening up a little bit, and we're getting shadows on the road now. Very effective graphics, aren't they? Great on Indie Velo. I This is filmed in a time when I suppose it's still in the beta stage of Indie Velo, and I wonder if you're looking at this in a couple of years' time, whether there'll be far more buildings and infrastructure put on these routes. But you don't really need them. You don't need the infrastructure to cycle, of course. And I think the graphics on here very, very good. Quite like the avatars too. There's not a lot to complain about Indie Velo. It's really got the fundamentals spot on right from the start. So I think this platform has legs. If only I had the legs. 7% at the moment, slamming right down to 13 kph. You see I'm putting in about 230 watts here. I'm not exerting myself for a demo. I'm not in racing conditions. I'm sure the guys at the front will be putting in more effort than that, and it's probably putting a few more watts in as well. As we go around another one of the bots, 7%. As I said, this is sort of 5, 6, 7 is kind of the gradient you can expect for most of the way. And if you can cope without changing gears between those little fluctuations, then get yourself a nice little cadence and the right gear, and see yourself to the top nicely. A side wind, as we see from the wisp going across the road. You can also look in the top right hand corner box. You can see it's 6 kilometre wind going across us from right to left as the shadows get a little bit brighter. 6%, as I said, I think this is probably what the average is for most of this climb. I wonder actually if you did a calculation, it'd be more than 6% because of that steep bit at the bottom and the little kick at the end. But I think I would look at this, apart from the beginning and end, as a 6% climb type of average. It's a sort of climb that if I find the right gear, I can quite easily cope with in real life. Just get the steady gear. I might not be the fastest, but I like the idea of being in one gear and getting a steady cadence, which I think this climb does offer. You might be different. We're all slightly different in what we like and dislike and what we're strong at and not. But for those of you who a steady cadence is the way to get up a mountain, this is probably a good one for you. Save the beginning and end, shall we say. The end bit, of course, is bearable because you just know that it's going to be over in a minute, whereas the bottom bit psychologically is like, oh my goodness, what have I let myself in for? As I say though, don't let that happen, because if you get over the early bit, it gets nice, settles down like this. 5% here, and that's one of the other things I've always felt, that when you've just done some steep climbs, suddenly 5, 6, 7% sounds, it seems quite easy, and it doesn't if you just sort of left the house, but it does if you've just done a 12% climb, which you will have done here. As we go through the trees now, it's we're still in the tree line. I don't know what the actual altitude is. I mean, I think this does about 200 meters of climbing, so it's one will assume that if we didn't start at sea level, so I think we're probably at 100, maybe more, but about 100 meters or so above sea level. So this is probably about a 300 meter climb at the top, and what they've done here, I don't suppose the tree line really vanishes at 300 meters in real life, but to make it feel like a mountain, which it is, you can see the trees thinning out a little bit as we hit the tree line, and obviously at some point there will be no more trees because we're above the tree line. I say this in a context that I read in I think I read in a news article this week that the tree line in certain parts of the world is actually increasing as a result of global warming, so the trees are beginning to grow a little bit higher than they used to, so the tree line's changing. I'm not sure how cyclists will view that, and if we sort of put aside all our concerns about the environment for the moment, it's quite nice when you get above the tree line. And you can see here the type of soil they've got here. This is very sort of reminiscent to me of Mont Ventoux, if you've ever climbed it, where you get above the tree line, you get to Chateau Renard, and you get that bleak lunar landscape as they describe it. And I think this one's been sort of created with that in mind a little bit, because you can see, or you will see in a moment as we get ever closer to the top of the climb, it's still at 5%, as I said before, the kick to come. And the trees still here, as we can see just on the horizon, still plenty more trees to pass, but they are getting thinner and that denotes we are getting close to the top. We have a quick look down at the profile at the bottom, and you can see we're not too far away from the top, and you can see through the gap in the trees on the horizon there that lunar landscape, that Mont Ventoux style landscape, which as I say is it's quite iconic, I think, in cycling terms, isn't it, Mont Ventoux? So as I say, the way they've done this is very reminiscent of that sort of landscape. I did think from the views that I originally saw that it was going to be snowy at the top, but it's not. I think it's this white chalky limestone or whatever it is, sort of gravel. So here we are, hitting what I would call the Mont Ventoux section as we get quite close to the top. Now it's going to kick up. It's already kicked up to 7% gradient here. We're going to go around the corner. We're going to do a loop. Now if you look in the top right hand corner, just underneath where it says 7 kph for the wind and 7% gradient, that's actually the map. You can see we go round this curve at the top. You can see it just ahead, and then the road splits. That's because we do a loop around the summit of the mountain and rejoin, as you can see. So we're going to go to the right. We go around this U-bend, then we go to the right, and you'll see where we rejoin and come back down the same mountain. Trees getting very sparse now as we hit the top. The gradient still yet to kick up a little bit, as you can see at the end there. 5% at the moment, not too bad, but a kick to come. It'll get you over the top and then round the loop. Now, bear in mind that we go around the loop, we're going to do 360 degrees, and the gradient, this is where it kicks, 9%, and we get over this, because we're going to do 360 degrees, 13% now, this gradient. This is the worst bit of the climb, but you can see the top, you'll bear it. 13% still. As I say, we're going to go around the loop. Now remember, the wind will have a factor as we go up to 15% on this bit of the climb, but the top in sight, we're nearly there. Then we've got the loop. The wind comes into play because we're going to do 360 degrees, so sometimes the wind will be with us 17%, 16% as we reach for the top, and we're going to hit the wind because you can see the wind now is straight in our face. Look at the direction of the arrow just above. So the first bit of the loop, as soon as we get over this harsh climb, down at 6% now as we head through the finish of the climb, the red and white arch denoting the top of the climb. But now we're going to do the loop. You can see the top of the mountain, you can see where the road divides. We're going to the right, we're going to around the back and come in through that left section, but the wind is going to be against us on the first bit of this as we turn to the right. Look at the arrow on the in the top right hand corner box, and it points right in our face, so we get over the climb and we go into the wind. I don't know whether the wind will be in the same direction on the day you do it. I've no idea whether this is random or it's fixed, but on my climb you can see the first thing I do is I get into a nice 0% bit, but struggling away at 29 kph with an 8% headwind. Don't worry, we're going around the loop, so as we go around this bend, the wind will start working for us in a little while. You can see the second mountain over there. That's we're not going around that one. That's there's two lumps here. One would assume that, although these are of course not real islands, these would be based on volcanic mounds, wouldn't they? And as we go, actually we're going through a little gap, aren't we? It's not really a second mountain so much as a little bit of a gap through the one we're on. So you can see the wind now as we go around the next bend will suddenly be in our favour. My 29 kph is suddenly 32 kph as I come out of the wind, and as I turn the bend I'd like to think it's getting a little bit faster, 34 now. Legs still sort of kind of feeling that climb. That's how I literally just got out of bed, didn't warm up and got on and did this, so I wasn't I think I was very tempted to sort of really go for it here and sort of get some speed up, but the legs were just suggesting that perhaps this wasn't in order. Now the wind behind me, only doing 31 kph because I'm not really trying, I suppose, is the answer. But I think if you do get the wind at this point, this is not a bad place to see if you can either catch up somebody in front or maybe attack and get away and create a bit of distance in front of somebody behind. You'll have to judge that based on the other riders around you, how you feel and all the rest of it. And of course, we're all different, as I say. Now you can see the arch coming up, so this is the end of the loop now, and then we hit the descent, the gradient 0 at the moment, as we get this wonderful panoramic view of the ocean. But it's the arch there that we're focusing on at the moment, slightly downhill into the arch, -1%, allows you to get a bit of speed up. I would recommend pedalling quite hard, up to 39 kph here, even on that little bit, 40 as we go through the arch, still only on -1% as Bot gets in front of me. Get the benefit of the draft. If you look in the top right hand corner, you can see the draft effect in between the new numbers there. It's down to 0 now because I've just gone in front of the Bot, and we're hitting decent speeds now, 70 kph. The Bot just coming round, giving me a bit of draft benefit there. You can see top right hand corner the green in the draft section, and I'm getting total draft now sitting behind that Bot. We're sharing loads. I know it's not real. It's -7%. I mean, these steep gradients that hurt you on the way up are going to give you good speeds going downhill, 72 kph quite easily, not putting a lot of wattage in, changing places with the Bot, giving me draft effect as well, making this quite easy. As I say, I'm not racing, so it'll be different under those circumstances, but it is fast and it's a blast. So heading down the mountain, you can look in the bottom right hand corner, you can see probably about a third of the way down the mountain, probably a bit more. We've done 7.6 kilometres, we've got 3.3 to go, so it's suggesting it's about 10.9, but remember I did start a little way before the start line, so it's I think 10.6 if you actually do the course start to finish. So racing down here, not a lot to say. I mean, I would recommend pedalling. I did, hitting sort of 60, 70 kph quite easily, very, very low watts, 130, 150 watts, not really costing me any energy. Well, I say any energy, much energy, I should say, as we zoom down towards the end. Now, of course, the end bit isn't 100% flat. It's, got undulations, but nevertheless, I think by the time you get onto that flat bit, that's where the race will be decided. Now, it's not long on the flat bit, so if you have got a big gap by the time you get down to the lake, you've got to make it up. But I think because people will have different strengths, abilities and reserves, that is a point where it could still yet be decided. If you have got a big lead coming down this mountain, if somebody strong behind you has that sort of kind of final energy at the sprint, you might still get caught. But you'll have to see that on the day. We can't predict that for you, but just bear in mind that as easy as this bit is going down here, and you can see we're nearly at the bottom of the descent now, still hitting 70 kph quite easily without too much trouble. Find yourself a big gear and a bit of pedalling and you might get better than that. So now you can see the little sign coming up. As I say, I did this not in a race format, I was just doing it idly on the normal courses, and so therefore I get the options at the junctions. I'm not taking them because I'm doing the Swan route, and you can see the gradient now still -11% though. Still fantastic, isn't it? Hitting 59.60. Of course it brakes you automatically on the corners, so I lost a little bit of momentum on the last corner. We're going to lose a bit more here. You can see it slowing me down to 30 kph to do the bend because it brakes, but here we are. Now we've got a 1% incline. It doesn't last very long, it's just the lakeside undulations, but down to 33 kph. Now, as I say, because the braking will have slowed everybody down, this is where the strong finishers might fancy their chances, even if they lost a little bit of ground during the mountain climb and descent. But there's only 700 metres from here, so it's not very long. You're going to have to work hard to do it. So very, I mean, you've got to make decisions based on how you feel and your own ability. But I think with only 600 metres to go, or 500 metres now, it's worth putting a lot of effort in to see what you can do. As I say, I'm hitting 40 kph on a -1 descent here quite easily, not too much effort, around 200 to 250 watts most of the time. He says it suddenly hits 300, but reasonably flat. 1% gradient here, you shouldn't really notice that too much, but it might for tired legs just make a small difference. So We can see the finishing arch now as we come into the last 300 metres. A couple of bots now. Can I catch all of these bots? We go past the first one. There's still 3 ahead. If I can get them before the finishing line, I'll get one of them. I don't think I'm going to make the other 2 and kind of sit up, but I think actually if I'd sprinted I probably would have caught them, because I decided I wouldn't do it, but I probably could have done. So that's your lot, that's the route. If you are racing on it, we wish you good luck. We quite enjoyed that. A couple of tough bits, but actually a steady climb that I think is quite manageable and could make a very interesting race. Good luck.